Let me give you the overview of the story before officially starting. Yukito, an 85-year-old bronze rank adventurer with shockingly low stats despite reaching level 98, faces ridicule and despair after years of relentless effort yield minimal rewards. After dying in a tragic battle, a system error revives him, resetting his life to the day he became an adventurer and revealing a maxed-out hidden luck stat. Confused but determined, Yukito embraces his second chance. He pledges to harness his newfound abilities to achieve greatness, aiming to bring joy to his family, heal his ailing mother, and ensure his sister's happiness. The manhwa begins with a group of rare and highly valuable silver slimes being spotted by a team of hunters. There are 4 slimes in total, and the hunters are cautious, knowing how elusive and valuable these creatures are. One hunter, positioned ahead of the others and hiding behind a tree, warns his team to be careful, stressing that they cannot afford to let the slimes escape. However, before they can act, a lone figure suddenly rushes toward the slimes, ignoring the hunter's call to wait. This individual, later revealed to be the main character, Takahashi Yukito, swiftly eliminates all 4 silver slimes with precise and consistent critical strikes using his long one-handed sword. As Yukito defeats the slimes, a system window appears, notifying him that he has acquired S-rank items: silver slime armor, silver slime gauntlets, and silver slime shoes. The items are displayed on the grass where the slimes were defeated, with a golden system window providing detailed descriptions of each item. The other hunters are stunned by Yukito's efficiency and luck. A warrior-type hunter is amazed by Yukito's ability to land critical strikes on every slime, while a mage-type hunter is shocked by the rare drops, as S-rank items are incredibly difficult to obtain. One hunter even remarks, "What a lucky guy." Yukito, however, seems unfazed by their reactions. He checks his inventory, chuckling to himself as he examines the S-rank items. He reflects on how unbelievable it is to have obtained such high-tier gear, remarking that it feels like he is being rewarded for all the hardships he endured in his previous life. A flashback then reveals more about Yukito's past. He was once an 85-year-old bronze rank adventurer, a low-ranking and seemingly unremarkable figure in the adventurer hierarchy. He is standing in Tokyo Dungeon, where adventurers are preparing for a challenge. Yukito stands alone, while others are grouped in parties of 2 or 3. Suddenly, chaos erupts as most of the adventurers receive alarming notifications on their phones. One adventurer shouts, showing his phone to the group, revealing that monsters are attacking outside the dungeon. This news spreads panic among the adventurers. Monsters are ravaging the area, making it unsafe for anyone to remain outside. People are scrambling to move deeper into the dungeon, fearing that more monsters will emerge from below. Amid the panic, a young adventurer notices Yukito and urgently tells him to escape, saying, "This isn't the time to be hunting slimes." However, Yukito silently pulls away from the young adventurer's grasp, ignoring the warning and walking toward a group of slimes in the distance. The young adventurer's party members observe Yukito from afar, sensing something unusual about his behavior and resolve. As the other adventurers run away from the impending danger, one of them bumps into Yukito, pushing him aside and calling him a slime geezer. Yukito falls to the ground, and his sword drops beside him. Despite the insult and the chaos around him, Yukito remains composed. He picks up his sword, stands up, and continues on his path, seemingly unaffected by the situation. As he walks, Yukito reflects on the passage of time since the founding of adventurers and the system that governs their world. He recalls how the system uses a familiar status-based progression mechanic, where defeating monsters allows adventurers to level up, increasing their stats and sometimes granting them magic or skills. This is considered normal for adventurers. However, Yukito's situation is far from normal. He looks at his stats and laments the results of his efforts. Despite reaching level 98, his stats are so low that not a single one is in the double digits. Even newbies who have killed just 10 slimes have better stats than him. A flashback reveals the depth of Yukito's perseverance. It shows him tirelessly fighting monsters, giving his all in every battle. His primary goal was to avoid losing to anyone else, and he pushed himself to his limits, relentlessly hunting weak monsters to climb to level 98. This grueling journey was driven by sheer persistence and determination, even though the rewards were minimal. Yukito reflects on how he was the only one who pushed himself to such extremes, tirelessly battling monsters despite his age and deteriorating condition. Standing in a desolate field after yet another fight, he drops his broken sword to the ground, exhausted. He recalls that the maximum level in the adventure system is level 99 and hardens his resolve, thinking, Just one more. When he reached the highest level, it will all be worth it. Clenching his fist, he prepares himself to face another group of slimes, driven by the hope that reaching the pinnacle of the leveling system will finally reward his years of effort. Despite his frail state, Yukito charges at the slimes with fierce determination, fighting them barehanded. He remains confident that his status is improving, even if it is happening slowly. Channeling all his strength, he pushes through the fight with unshakable resolve. In a dramatic moment, he bites into the core of the last slime, defeating it. A system window pops up, announcing what Yukito has been waiting for. Level up. Another window congratulates him, stating, Takahashi Yukito, he has finally reached the maximum level. Congratulations. Overwhelmed with emotion, Yukito raises his trembling hands toward the system window and pleads, now, please reward him for all his hardships. However, the system's response is devastating. Another window appears, informing him that his strength has increased by 1 point. Yukito immediately checks his status window, only to find that his strength has gone up by a single point, and his level is now 99, the maximum level. The realization hits him like a sledgehammer. All his years of relentless effort, the countless battles, and the sacrifices he made have culminated in a mere 1-point increase in strength. Shocked and devastated, Yukito falls to the ground, shouting in despair, Are you messing with me? It was all for nothing. Are you trying to say that there is nothing for me? I have no hope left. As he cries out, red eyes glow in the darkness behind him, and monsters begin to surround him from all directions. Yukito, however, feels no fear, only regret. He reflects on the life he lived, filled with hardship and failure. He remembers how everyone looked down on him, how he couldn't save his mother, who had always treasured him, and how he inadvertently crushed his little sister's happiness. Overwhelmed by sorrow, he whispers, This life is finally over. At that moment, a large monster crushes him under its foot, and his blood spreads across the ground. Just as Yukito is about to die, an error window appears, stating, A fatal error has occurred with Takahashi Yukito's status system, applying the repair patch and doing a rollback on his life. Another window follows, revealing, Hidden parameters released, giving status bonuses as an apology. Unique status points, 9,999. Then Yukito hearing the voice of a girl congratulating him. As he fully opens his eyes, he realizes the girl is the receptionist of the Adventurer Guild. She hands him his Adventurer logo and says, From now on, you are an adventurer. Yukito, visibly confused, looks around trying to make sense of the situation. The receptionist notices his reaction and asks, Is there something wrong? Yukito forces a nervous smile, replies, No, and quickly grabs his Adventurer logo, thanking her before moving away. Once alone, Yukito immediately pulls out his phone and checks the date. He thinks to himself, If I remember correctly, this was the day I registered with the Adventurers Guild. What happened? I remember seeing something about status bonuses right before I died. To investigate further, he opens his status window. At first glance, his stats appear unchanged, just as they were when he first became an adventurer. However, he notices that he can scroll the window down slightly. When he does, he is shocked to see that his luck stat is maxed out. Yukito is bewildered, wondering if this stat existed in his previous life. He recalls that luck was a hidden parameter back then, invisible to adventurers, and he can't believe it is now visible and maxed out. Reflecting on his past, he emphasizes that he endured 70 years of bad luck. Determined to test his newfound luck, Yukito decides to hunt slimes, a familiar and seemingly simple task. The setting shifts to a bright, open field labeled Tokyo Dungeon. First floor, unfading footprint. Yukito spots a group of slimes and cheerfully remarks, There they are, showing a rare moment of optimism. Looking at the slimes in the peaceful field, he comments, It feels like home, expressing a sense of comfort and familiarity. However, as he prepares to engage, he senses something unusual nearby. Turning around with curiosity, he spots something shining brightly in the grass. To his astonishment, Yukito discovers a rare silver slime, an ultra-rare monster that appeared only once in his previous life. He recalls that the silver slime provides a huge amount of experience points, but is infamous for its swift escapes. The last time he encountered one, it got away before he could act. Determined not to let history repeat itself, Yukito carefully calculates his approach, knowing that one more step will bring him within striking range. Just as he prepares to attack, an arrow strikes nearby, startling him and interrupting his plan. Someone shouts an apology for misfiring, but Yukito is furious. He mutters angrily, calling the person an idiot for ruining his chance. However, to his surprise, the silver slime, startled by the arrow's noise, looks around and notices Yukito nearby. Instead of fleeing, the slime attacks him, catching Yukito off guard. Yukito immediately dodging an attack from the silver slime, surprised that it didn't flee as he expected, but instead chose to attack him. He quickly gets into a fighting stance, and the slime rushes toward him again. This time, Yukito is ready. He thrusts his sword toward the incoming slime, breaking its core and defeating it. With a sigh of relief, he levels up 4 times. However, as he checks his weapon, he realizes it has broken after the encounter, reminding him of the silver slime's strength. He decides he needs a better weapon and throws the broken sword into his inventory. As he processes the victory, Yukito notices something glowing behind him where the silver slime was defeated. To his shock, he sees a sword on the ground, emitting a radiant light. He exclaims, "No way!" An S-rank weapon appears as a rare drop. Thrilled by this incredible stroke of luck, he picks up the weapon, which boasts high attack power but has a slight drawback in accuracy. Despite this, Yukito feels confident and prepared to take on more challenges with his new S-rank sword. Soon, he encounters 4 silver slimes at once and wonders if he's dreaming. The slimes charge at him aggressively, forcing him into a tough battle. Despite knowing it will be difficult to defeat all of them, Yukito decides to face the challenge head-on. Using his new sword, he swings with precision, landing critical hits on each of the silver slimes and defeating them in a flash. The slimes drop more S-rank items, further boosting his resources and confidence. Relieved and exhilarated by his victory, Yukito continues hunting for another hour. In total, he battles 10 silver slimes, each encounter yielding rare loot. However, his bag eventually becomes full, forcing him to stop. Reflecting on his incredible luck, he realizes it's too consistent and overwhelming to doubt anymore. Overjoyed, he exclaims, "My luck is real," and celebrates his success, acknowledging that his perseverance and newfound abilities are finally paying off. Exhausted but deeply satisfied, Yukito lies down on the grass, staring at the sky. In this moment of quiet reflection, he vows to use his newfound power to achieve something meaningful. He dreams of becoming someone great, not for himself, but to bring happiness to his family. Specifically, he wants to help his sick mother recover and see his sister happily married, envisioning these moments as sources of pride and joy for him. As he sits up, a sudden realization hits him. He doesn't even know if he has a home to return to anymore. Reflecting on his life, he remembers that he has been alone for 70 years, a thought that fills him with longing. While putting his sword into his inventory, he expresses a deep desire to go home, a place he hasn't known for decades. At that moment, a teleportation circle activates, and Yukito exits the dungeon. Filled with determination, he begins to run, driven by an urgent and passionate need to reunite with his family. Shouting with emotion, he declares, "I must reunite with them right now." He resolved to make up for lost time and to use his second chance at life to bring happiness to those he loves. After some time, Yukito arriving at an old apartment building, catching his breath after running to reunite with his family. He stands outside, trying to remember which room on the second floor is his. Reflecting on his past, he recalls being homeless for a long time and having forgotten his room number. However, upon seeing the nameplate, he recognizes his room as 203. Nervous and filled with anticipation, he reaches for the doorknob, trying to calm himself. He questions why he's feeling so anxious, given that this is his home and his family. Gathering his courage, he mutters, "All right," and opens the door. The door opens slightly, revealing a girl inside who casually greets him, calling him Big Brother and welcoming him back. Overwhelmed with emotion, Yukito immediately hugs her tightly, calling her by her name, Nozomi. Surprised by his sudden display of affection, Nozomi asks what he's doing and wonders if it's a prank. She playfully tells him to let go, but Yukito holds on firmly, his resolve unwavering. In this moment, he silently vows that this time, he won't let anyone take away what's precious to him. His fierce determination to protect his sister and his family is palpable. The scene then shifts to Yukito and Nozomi sitting at a table together. Yukito explains everything that has happened so far, including his newfound luck stats and the incredible opportunities they've brought him. Nozomi listens in amazement and asks if they can use this luck to save their mom. Yukito smiles confidently and reassures her, saying, "Of course, All it takes is a bit of effort while holding a drink. His confidence and optimism reflect his determination to use his abilities for the benefit of his family. The next day, Yukito puts his plan into action. He trades rare items he acquired from his hunts for a significant amount of money. With the funds, he participates in an auction, bidding 10 million confidently to acquire the highest grade status ailment recovery potion. The view then shifts to a hospital building, where Yukito and Nozomi arrive, preparing to meet their mother. They knock on the door, and their mother's voice warmly invites them in, saying, "Come in." Inside, their mother smiles warmly and asks how they have been, showing her care and love for them. Yukito teases her in return, saying, "Mom, that's our line." Nozomi presents souvenirs to her mother, who thanks them with a warm smile. However, she gently scolds them, asking them not to spend money on her and to take care of themselves instead. Yukito reassuring his mother, telling her not to worry about money anymore. Nozomi, his sister, excitedly chimes in, revealing that they have another gift for her. Their mother looks intrigued and asks, "What is it?" Yukito presents a glowing potion and urges her to drink it. Nozomi explains that her brother earned money from the dungeon to purchase the potion, a testament to his efforts as an adventurer. Their mother expresses disbelief, questioning how Yukito, a new adventurer, managed to achieve such a feat. Yukito humbly admits, "I was just lucky," downplaying his accomplishments despite the incredible odds he overcame. He hands the glowing potion to his mother, saying, "Here, drink it." Their mother opens the potion bottle and takes a sip. As the potion begins to work, her body glows with magical energy, and Yukito and Nozomi nervously ask, "How is it?" She responds that she feels lighter and can breathe more easily, a sign that the potion is having a positive effect. Relieved, Yukito smiles warmly and says, "That's great." Nozomi enthusiastically praises her brother, exclaiming, "Good job, big brother," and gives him a cheerful high five, showcasing the siblings' close bond. Their mother humorously remarks that the potion tastes bad, prompting Yukito to jokingly offer her a palate cleanser. The potion's effects are significant. Her symptoms ease, and the progression of her illness halts, as confirmed by the doctor. She begins physical therapy to regain her strength and eventually receives permission for home care, marking a major step forward in her recovery. Overjoyed at the prospect of living together as a family again, their mother calls it a dream come true. Nozomi reassures her, saying, "It's real," emphasizing the tangible progress they've made. Their mother finds peace and comfort in being back home, engaging in daily chores, and enjoying the simple pleasures of life. Nozomi is thrilled to see her mother doing better, but Yukito remains thoughtful and somewhat unsatisfied. Noticing his demeanor, Nozomi asks why he seems troubled. Yukito reveals that the potion is only a temporary fix and cannot completely cure their mother's illness. Nozomi, concerned, asks what they should do next. Yukito explains that they need a powerful legendary L-rank item, such as an elixir, to fully cure her. This revelation shifts the focus to a new, more daunting goal. Nozomi, seeing a broadcast about the elixir on TV, mentions that top adventurers have found it. The broadcast explains that the elixir can save someone on the brink of death, but is incredibly rare, appearing only on dungeon floors below 50. Additionally, it cannot be bought, making it a unique and rare item. Yukito agrees, elaborating that unique items are special and tied to the individual who earns them. He explains that obtaining such items requires defeating a powerful being, symbolizing glory and exceptional achievement. Nozomi concludes that they must obtain the elixir themselves since it cannot be bought, and Yukito confirms this, solidifying their new mission. Yukito and Nozomi discussing their plan to obtain the legendary elixir while washing dishes together. Nozomi asks her brother if he can venture deeper than the 50th floor of the dungeon, a feat that seems daunting even for experienced adventurers. Yukito initially jokes that it's normally impossible and even quips about dying a dog's death, causing Nozomi to panic and question how they can accomplish such a task. However, Yukito smirks and clarifies that he said normally, hinting that he has a plan beyond conventional means. Yukito reflects on his unique advantages, realizing that his power isn't just his maxed-out luck stat, but also the knowledge from his past life. He recalls that the elixir, while extremely rare, can appear on upper floors of the dungeon, not just the lower ones as commonly believed. He visualizes the ancient golem, the 20th floor boss, as a fearsome opponent that guards the elixir. The elixir is a unique item, an extremely rare drop that only appears when the golem is defeated. Yukito explains that the appearance rate of the elixir is astronomically low because it's a rare drop from a rare monster, making it one of the most coveted items in the dungeon. As he reflects on his past life, Yukito mentions a rare occurrence he only heard of once, where the elixir appeared under unusual circumstances. This memory, combined with his current luck, fills him with confidence. He smiles to himself while opening the fridge. Nozomi notices his expression and comments on it, teasing him playfully. Yukito, holding a bottle, questions if he really had such an expression, to which Nozomi cheerfully replies, "You can do anything because you're my big brother." Her unwavering faith in him boosts his confidence, and he smirks, seemingly amused by her teasing and the situation at hand. Yukito pours drinks into 3 glasses and confidently declares that's a given. As he holds a glass, he mentions that he needs to make some preparations, catching Nozomi's attention. She looks curious and asks, "Preparation?" Yukito smirks confidently, thinking to himself that there's always a loophole to everything.
The protagonist, Takahashi Yukito, wields the great sword of the silver slime, which has special effects but a 30% chance to miss. His sister questions if he's properly equipped for the dungeon, as most warriors wear heavy armor. Yukito admits his stats are too low to wear heavy gear. His status screen shows that his only high stat is luck. He realizes he can't equip strong gear, so his only option is to rely on his sword skills. He unlocks a new skill, Great Layering Strike, which has a 30% chance of a triple critical attack. His sister suggests a way to increase his stats and mentions something about the 5th floor. He thinks about that place called Alice Crown. He mentions that monsters drop the rare miracle fruit, which might help him grow stronger. His sister tells him to be careful before he leaves. She hands him a lunchbox, worrying that he might not need it if he eats the miracle fruit. He accepts it gratefully. The lunchbox gets stored in his inventory. He heads out for the dungeon. He arrives at the Tokyo Dungeon's 5th floor, Alice Crown. The floor is filled with planter monsters and is known for making adventurers get lost. He checks his map, confident that he won't have any issues. However, he finds himself in the dense forest, possibly getting lost. Yukito finds the treant nest and prepares for battle. The treants use mimicry to blend in with the trees, making them hard to detect. However, their mimicry isn't perfect, and Yukito knows their weaknesses. He identifies them by their leaf structure and root patterns. He throws an object to confirm the treant's presence. A giant treant emerges, revealing itself as a monster. The treant attacks, its glowing red eyes signaling danger. Yukito strikes with precision, saying, "Bullseye!" He lands a critical hit, splitting the treant in half. Yukito notices something after defeating the treant, a rare drop. The miracle fruit appears. He picks it up, surprised by its special properties. He tastes it, noting a mild pear or apple flavor. He decides that taste doesn't matter as long as it works. His stats increase, confirming the miracle fruit's effect. He realizes its minor stat-boosting power. He continues the cycle of hunting and eating to grow stronger. After eating too much, he gets bored of the same taste. Yukito wonders if he has reached his growth limit, as his stats have increased significantly. He checks his status screen, confirming his progress. Deciding to end his hunt for the day, he stretches and relaxes. Suddenly, he hears a noise, sensing someone nearby. He instantly reacts, demanding to know who's there. A group of hostile adventurers appears, accusing him of hogging the hunting grounds. 2 suspicious men, a hooded figure and a brute, smirk menacingly. Yukito notices they lack adventurer IDs, suspecting they are crawlers, illegal hunters. The hooded man mocks Yukito, calling him a spoiled brat. The brute threatens him, saying that if Yukito hands over his high-quality equipment, they might spare his life. The armored man collapses on the ground, defeated. The protagonist confirms that everything activated as planned. The enemy used a high-level skill, proving he was stronger. The attack guarantees a hit but lowers power by 30%. The protagonist's enchanted clothes help reduce the damage. He realizes luck saved him from a fatal wound. The hooded enemy is shocked that his ally was defeated in one hit. The protagonist offers the enemy a chance to surrender. The hooded man retaliates, launching a fireball attack. The protagonist acknowledges the distance but prepares for action. The hooded enemy mocks him, assuming he is surrendering. The protagonist denies surrendering and activates an ability. He pulls out a mysterious weapon through a portal, revealing his own magical staff. He stands confidently. The hooded man laughs maniacally, believing he has the advantage. He questions if the protagonist understands the weapon's power. The protagonist confidently acknowledges it. He reveals the staff of nonsense, glowing with powerful energy. The hooded man underestimates the protagonist, calling him an amateur. The Staff of Nonsense is a rare but unstable item that activates random magic. The odds of casting a useful spell are low, making it unreliable. There's a high chance of failure, with only a small chance of casting strong magic. Even hitting a 30% success rate is considered lucky. The protagonist activates the staff, treating it like a magical lottery. The hooded man prepares an intermediate-level fireball spell. He believes his magic power is superior due to his equipment bonus. He arrogantly declares himself the guaranteed winner. The hooded man declares that the protagonist's luck has run out. He launches a massive fireball attack. A powerful explosion engulfs the battlefield. The protagonist calmly acknowledges that the enemy has finally made a move. He confidently states that he has also completed his preparations. His staff glows with immense magical energy. A colossal flaming meteor forms as his counterattack. The burning meteor looms over the battlefield, ready to strike. The protagonist remains unfazed, preparing for the impact. The protagonist stands firm as flames engulf the battlefield. A massive flaming meteor descends toward the enemy. The hooded man panics as his fireball is completely overpowered. He is in disbelief, realizing the protagonist used an advanced spell. The meteor hurtles toward him with unstoppable force. He nervously laughs, convincing himself it's just an illusion. He screams in terror, begging for it to stop. Pure fear fills his face as he realizes his fate. A devastating explosion erupts, consuming everything in flames. The battlefield is left in ruins, with a massive crater from the impact. The hooded man is reduced to a burnt, defeated state. The protagonist looks at his broken staff, unfazed. He sighs as he inspects the damaged weapon. He discards the staff and walks away, apologizing. Reflecting on the battle, he acknowledges that he was just incredibly lucky. The protagonist declares victory after defeating his enemies. He realizes he must not leave the crawlers alive. He decides to take the bodies outside despite the hassle. He restrains the captured enemies with ropes, ensuring they are securely tied up. He prepares to leave and head back above ground. A cute, game-like transition shows him traveling back up. He hands over the captured crawlers to the police. After a long questioning session, he feels exhausted. The protagonist steps outside with a determined look. He apologizes for being late, explaining he ran into trouble. The receptionist informs him that the police have already reported his actions. She happily congratulates him with excitement. He has ranked up to silver and receives a new badge. He is surprised by the promotion and questions if it's a mistake. The narration explains that reaching silver rank is usually very difficult. It requires completing special missions and hunting dangerous monsters. The receptionist confirms his promotion is deserved because he caught 2 criminals. The protagonist learns about the Red Arm, a dangerous crime group. The receptionist confirms he did a great job capturing them. She reveals that the criminals were as strong as silver-ranked adventurers. The protagonist realizes he unknowingly fought strong opponents and could have been in danger. He humbly says he was just lucky. The receptionist reassures him, saying even his modesty is silver-ranked. A diagram explains that adventurers can only challenge certain floors based on rank. He puts on his new silver rank badge. He sets his next goal, clearing at least the 20th floor. The receptionist supports him but warns about the difficulty of the 20th floor. She advises him not to challenge it alone. He acknowledges her advice and thanks her. He walks away, ready to take his next steps. He reflects on ranking up faster than expected and wonders if it was luck. Someone suddenly calls out to him. An old man in a suit asks for a moment of his time. The protagonist listens as the man identifies him as the adventurer who caught the gangsters. The wanted posters of the criminals he captured reveal their crimes and bounties. The protagonist confirms he defeated the criminals after they attacked him. The old man reacts emotionally, lowering his head. The old man thanks him sincerely, gripping his hands in gratitude. The protagonist is confused by the man's intense reaction. The old man reveals that the criminals had killed his son. He explains that even the police couldn't capture them, but the protagonist did. The protagonist humbly responds that he was just doing his duty as an adventurer. The old man deeply bows to show his gratitude. With tears in his eyes, he says he can now visit his son's grave with good news. The protagonist reflects that he was never thanked in his past life. He realizes that being appreciated actually feels good. He recalls how the world was destroyed in his past life. Unable to change it, he wonders if he should take action now that he knows the future. He doubts himself, reminding himself that he's not strong enough to change everything. He snaps himself out of his overthinking. He decides that his top priority is saving his mother. Determined, he walks toward his next goal. Elsewhere, a powerful and angry opponent slams his fist down in frustration. A furious man in hiding learns that Yamada and Hashimoto were defeated. He worries that the other gang members won't take this incident seriously. He realizes he can't pay tax to his boss due to the setback. He finds a newspaper with Takahashi Yukito's face and vows revenge. Enraged, he stabs the newspaper, swearing to kill Yukito. He acknowledges that Yukito took down 2 strong opponents alone. He admits Yukito must be strong but still believes he has a way to deal with him. He prepares himself, showing confidence despite Yukito's strength. Wearing a cloak, he smirks, declaring that Yukito's luck has run out. The protagonist arrives on the 15th floor. He finds himself at the lonely Death Mountain peak. The terrain is narrow, winding, and dangerous. Due to its structure, it's hard to clear in a group. He reads that many have gone missing here and that crime is common. A weapon strikes the ground with force. He dodges an attack, seeing this as a perfect challenge for a solo hunter. He grabs his weapon, ready to fight. A giant bird attacks as he prepares for battle, aiming to level up for the 20th floor. The protagonist fights a giant bird to sharpen his skills. He originally planned to level up by hunting silver slimes, but after hunting too many, they stopped appearing. Facing stronger monsters, he decides to increase his kill count. With determination, he prepares for the next battle. Floating rock monsters force him to stay on guard. He leaps into battle against a ferocious beast. After intense fights, he acquires powerful new equipment. A mysterious man watches the protagonist from the shadows. The protagonist wields his silver slime greatsword with no armor. The observer recognizes him as Takahashi Yukito. Annoyed, he sees the protagonist as an intruder on his turf. He decides there's no need to attack immediately. He waits for the right moment to strike. Watching the protagonist set up camp, he grows curious. He realizes the protagonist plans to stay here for a while. A sudden idea sparks in his mind. The observer realizes he doesn't need to fight directly. He declares the land as his turf under a blood-red moon. Confident, he believes he has the upper hand. He understands that monsters have their own ecosystem. Using that knowledge, he plans to manipulate the balance. He slaughters predator birds to disrupt the ecosystem. He stands before a pit, waiting for the next phase of his plan. He throws something in, triggering an aggressive response. Swarms of monstrous insects awaken, their red eyes glowing in the dark. The monstrous insects rapidly grow stronger. Without predators, they begin overbreeding. The schemer waits patiently, knowing the time is near. He prepares his weapon, ready to act. Confident, he steps out, targeting an unlucky adventurer. His method ensures no outside interference. Holding insect repellent, he smirks, pleased with his plan. He scatters the repellent, setting his trap. The enraged insects, now uncontrolled, charge after their target. The schemer commands the insects to devour his target. He grins wickedly, wanting nothing left behind. Meanwhile, the protagonist defeats a beast effortlessly. Hearing a strange sound, he looks around cautiously. He notices a dark mass approaching from the distance. Confused, he mistakes it for black clouds. Realizing it's a swarm of death hoppers, his expression hardens. He prepares to fight but knows it's too much alone. Understanding the danger, he makes a quick escape. The protagonist realizes he needs a team to survive. A memory sparks as he recalls a useful location. He remembers a supply base from his past life. Adventurers had built a stronghold, making survival easier. Strangely, this base was never documented in guides. Determined, he arrives at the base's location. Focused, he refuses to waste any time. He attacks the ground with force. A giant frog monster leaps toward him aggressively. The protagonist inspects the wall and notices a slight difference in the soil color. He urgently calls for help from Monster Panic. A shadow appears behind the wall, indicating something is inside. He looks tense as black particles fill the air. Determined, he prepares to break in, saying it's an emergency. The wall shatters violently from his attack. Inside, he finds many unconscious, half-dressed people in a dark tunnel. He looks shocked and slightly overwhelmed by the discovery. The 3 captives, gagged and lying on the ground, look worried and confused. The protagonist, seeing them, jokingly asks if he walked into something weird. The captives panic and struggle to communicate, clearly distressed. The protagonist skillfully dodges an attack. With a smirk, he swiftly moves past the captives, striking down the enemies with his glowing weapon. A close-up shows someone being restrained by dark tendrils. The freed captives express their gratitude, relieved to be saved. The protagonist casually asks them what happened. One of the captives explains they were attacked by crawlers and knocked unconscious. The girl realizes they were being held for human trafficking. The protagonist surveys the area, confirming it is the crawlers' crime den. He reflects on how this place was supposed to be a supply point for adventurers. He suddenly wonders if he has stumbled upon a future event. A vision shows police planning to raid this location soon. In the future, this place will be turned into a hub for adventurers. The protagonist smirks, realizing he discovered it before it happened. He recalls that, in his past life, he was only obsessed with slimes for 70 years. The old man, unaware of time, calls 40 to 50-year-old snot-nosed brats. The protagonist decides to think about it later, looking frustrated. A close-up of his eyes shows deep focus and concern. The group reflects on the unexpected situation. The protagonist, determined, acknowledges the limited manpower available. The girl understands the situation, thinking seriously. The protagonist urgently calls for everyone's attention. He warns them that a swarm of death hoppers is rapidly approaching. A terrifying mass of deadly, insect-like creatures swarms toward them. A terrifying swarm of death hoppers advances with glowing red eyes. The captives panic upon realizing the sheer number of monsters. A man exclaims that this is a monster panic, and that there are too many to fight. The protagonist warns them that there's no time to hesitate. He commands them to cooperate if they want to survive. Some captives are skeptical about escaping such a massive threat. A girl panics, pointing out they have no weapons or armor. Another captive explains that all their equipment was stolen by crawlers. The protagonist confidently reveals that he has all the equipment they need. He accesses his inventory, revealing a vast collection of equipment. He summons a large amount of high-quality gear, letting it fall around him. The captives are shocked as rare weapons and armor appear before them. He confidently offers to transfer ownership of the equipment to them. A muscular man is stunned, realizing these are top-tier items. A young man and woman are amazed at how rare the items are. Someone questions the protagonist's identity, finding him mysterious. They note that he's never been seen in any ranking before. Excitedly, the captives start picking their weapons, eager to fight. The girl confidently puts on armor, saying it's more important than weapons. A blond man admires a glowing sword, realizing its high value. A girl in a mage robe asks if they can really take all the equipment. The protagonist hints that he has a request but isn't forcing them. He asks if they will let him take command. Some members hesitate, but one argues that he saved their lives. They acknowledge that he also provided them with powerful gear. The girl enthusiastically agrees to follow his orders. A strong warrior declares his intent to fight, refusing to fall victim to the monster panic. The protagonist addresses the group, preparing them for battle. A flashback shows a fierce battle between warriors. The protagonist looks tense as he processes the situation. He expresses gratitude, possibly for their trust in him. The blonde knight and a round-faced man stand ready with confidence. The protagonist maintains a serious and determined expression. A hand reaches out, possibly signaling a command. The protagonist strategizes, suggesting they use the cave's narrow entrance. A diagram explains how limiting the enemy's entry will make the fight more manageable. The protagonist confidently commands them to focus on reducing the enemy's numbers. A serious-looking knight listens attentively, slightly tense. A young girl in a maid outfit grips her staff, appearing concerned. The protagonist smirks while holding a glowing crystal, exuding confidence. With a determined expression, he declares, "It's time for battle!" Wielding his weapon, he prepares for the fight ahead. When the monsters finally reached the cave, Yukito destroyed them one by one. The hero chose the right strategy. He managed to overcome the monsters in the narrow passage of the cave. The young man swung his sword left and right. The other participants in this battle also doled out monsters. A red-haired beauty was aiming at them with a bow, while a young man of small stature was a skilled mage. Their team successfully resisted the attack of predatory insects. There were so many monsters that the entrance to the cave was completely hidden from view. The monsters were too many, but people continued to fight for their own lives. Many insects had already been destroyed, but more were coming. The former prisoners began to lose hope. There was no end in sight to these creatures. Takahashi Yukito saw that it wasn't working so far. The hero himself didn't realize if he could change the course of this battle. Suddenly, those present all felt the earthquake, and rocks from the ceiling began to fall on them. The captain told his squad to retreat without breaking formation. People began to run deep into the tunnel. There were more and more monsters, and there was no end in sight. At this rate, these insects would destroy the rock. The people began to panic. They thought they were about to die. Yukito quickly looked around, trying to analyze the situation. The hero thought, the adit is unfinished, so it's not reliable at all. Suddenly, the young man noticed an explosive on the floor near one of the tunnels. The guy realized it was a chance for salvation. That's an explosive worth using. The crawlers must have used it to expand the tunnel. Yukito walked over and picked up the explosives. The young man shouted, addressing the others. Listen up, everyone! There's a disembowel in the cave! Look for it! One of the guys replied. Explosives? Sure, it can be used as a weapon. But the girls also rushed out to look for dynamite, all seeing it as a chance for salvation. For several hours, they fought desperately against the deadly insects. It was very difficult, but it was worth fighting for their own lives. During this time, only a third of the cave remained. The people realized they had nowhere else to retreat. One of the girls had lost almost all her mana. The walls were about to collapse. The hero tried to control the situation, but he also saw signs of destruction. He closed his eyes and finally recognized that there was no other option. Yukito shouted. Attention! People looked back at him. The hero asked them to give him all the explosives they found. No one present argued, but they doubted that this explosive would be enough to destroy all the insects. It's like trying to grind water in a stupor. The young man caught the dynamite. He was sure he would be fine. He decided to blow up the cave. The rocks would overwhelm these insects. These monsters had low intelligence. They primarily targeted things that posed a greater threat. Simply put, the monsters would attack the one who destroyed them the most, and that was Yukito. One of the girls screamed that there was a hole in the ceiling. Everything was about to collapse. The squad captain ordered his subordinates to flee. One of the guys shouted to the hero. Are you just going to stand there? Do you really think you're just going to die with them? They wanted to know if the savior knew exactly what he was doing. Yukito smiled. He wanted to be trusted. Now, he was left alone with a whole cloud of killer insects. The hero understood that sometimes you have to take risks. This was that moment. He decided that now would be a good time to use the X-13 explosives. The young man was warned by the system that he had no detonation skills, so there was a 50% chance of an explosion. Due to the hunter's class, the probability of detonation was low, but his luck should help. A new warning came in, items damaged. 25% chance of detonation. But it worked. In the end, the hero flew into the abyss. He had to fend off on the fly those insects that rushed to chase him. The young man realized that he had to believe his plan would work. Like a true acrobat, he tried to regain his balance in free fall. All the while, the hero continued to hold his silver sword tightly. Yukito once again took advantage of the dissecting kick that had never failed him so far. One monster survived after that. The monster looked directly into Yukito's eyes. The hero decided that this was the end. He'd had enough. This time, he took advantage of a critical hit with a crushing blow. The young man pushed off, trying to get out of the abyss. Yukito was pleased with his luck. It still worked. The people watching this fight were stunned. The monster had just absorbed his entire punch. They held their breath, for Yukito might fall now. The hero used his sword again, thrusting it into the sheer rock. But this time, the technique didn't work. The sword blade didn't stay in the stone. The next moment, the young man actually flew into the abyss. It seemed impossible to escape. Suddenly, someone dropped a rope from above that looped over his arm like a lasso. At the last moment, Yukito managed to grab on, gratefully accepting help from his new friends. The men stood behind each other and began to pull the rope. The hero quickly made it to solid ground. He smiled. The whole area was littered with rocks and the remains of deadly insects that had been destroyed. When the young man finally sat down on the rock, he looked back at the result of his labor. The guy was proud that they had managed to defeat an entire army of insect monsters. Those he saved said, "It's unbelievable that after fighting so many monsters, they have no casualties at all." Yukito was pleased with the result. The system reported a large number of deadly hoppers had been destroyed. Yukito was now given the rank of fighter. The damage he dealt to the insect-type monsters was 20%. He had reached level 3. The skill warrior's intuition had been obtained. The bandit was so enraged at the failure of his scheme that he kicked the table. The man clutched his hand to his head, for that scumbag had destroyed their base. He realized that he would have to answer for it. You could even lose your own life. The bandit grabbed the bottle and shouted, "This trouble happened because of this idiot!" Uncorking the wine, he took a greedy sip straight from the bottle. After drinking almost all of it, the man threw the bottle at the wall, and it shattered into splinters. The gang leader promised himself that he would finish off Yukito personally. He was so enraged that he was preparing to take revenge, even if it cost him his life. Meanwhile, the hero, having finished with his business on the lower level, came to the company's office. The young man noticed that everyone present, upon seeing him, began to look for something. Yukito noted to himself that he had been recognized more often since then. The woman behind the counter said, "You've demonstrated yourself magnificently again." The hero was now called a mountain crusher who saved many people. All the guilds were asking Yukito to join them, but today, the hero was not in the mood for a dialogue. He apologized and explained that he was in a big hurry. In fact, the young man ignored all offers because he is not allowed to join the team yet. The guy thought about an elixir for his mom. Since it would take more time and effort to create under those circumstances, he wouldn't be able to create it anytime soon. Loots in teams is distributed randomly. It is because of this that the likelihood of getting a rare item is greatly reduced. Thanks to some clever calculations, the hero concluded that the more people in the guild, the lower the winning percentage. But Yukito decided not to get upset. After all, he had always defended the dungeon solo in his previous life. Why change anything now? Leaving the office, having finished all his business for the day, the hero headed home. There, his mom and sister were waiting for him with a delicious dinner. Yukito was pleased, for he had managed to get quite hungry during his adventures. Before tackling dinner, everyone prayed, thanking God for the food. Now Yukito could enjoy a delicious treat with his family. The taste of the food seemed very familiar to the hero. Perhaps he had tasted something similar in his past life. Despite the fact that their family had never been wealthy, they always celebrated holidays. Nozomi congratulated her brother for already reaching level 20. Their mother was very worried about her son. She asked, "Are you sure you can do it? They say that after the 20th level, the difficulty of the tasks increases exponentially." Her sister said that she was also worried, because only 15% of the hunters were able to pass level 20. The mother admonished her daughter not to use her phone while eating. The hero replied to his family that all was well. "Have you forgotten what I'm capable of?" His mother replied that she was proud of everything her son was doing. On the wall behind her hung newspaper articles with his picture. For a moment, his mother closed her eyes. She was trying to deal with her emotions. When she could speak again, she asked the hero to take care of himself. No parent would want their child to sacrifice themselves for others. The young man couldn't find anything to say to his mother, and a terrible memory arose in his mind. Yukito remembered burying his dead mommy in a past life. The hero addressed his mom affectionately. No child would want his parents to be upset. The woman wanted to object to someone, but Nozomi stopped her. She said, "Mom, leave him alone. You won't change anything anyway." Nozomi smiled and added, "Brother, you're too stubborn. Once you get something in your head, you can't change your mind." Tears appeared in the woman's eyes. She remembered her dead husband, because the children were very much like him. Yukito said, "Stop worrying about me. I'm doing this because I want to." The mother could not find anything to say to this, so she continued eating in silence. The hero looked at his reflection in the glass of water. He thought, in a past life, I failed to save my mom. It made his heart bleed when he thought of it. To erase the past forever, he needs to start a new life, and for that, he needs to get the magic elixir. After finishing his dinner, the young man folded his hands in a gesture of gratitude. He told his family that everything was delicious. Having rested a little at home, the hero did not hesitate to go to the dungeon again. Going down the stairs, the young man was running through possible scenarios of events in his head. The system reported, Tokyo Dungeon, Level 20, Stubborn Alchemist Quest. A large wall that defies the laws of physics. Takahashi Yukito saw danger ahead and bravely ran toward it with sword in hand. The monsters resembled something between robots and skeletons, surrounded by a hostile red aura. The young man remembered that the monsters of this floor were composed of inorganic substances. He moved at lightning speed. It helped him to attack both monsters almost simultaneously. Yukito remembered that these monsters were dangerous and cold-blooded killers. Plus, they're not alive. Some of the creatures had wings and attacked the young man from the air. The hero noted that the only thing that saved him was that the monsters acted schematically, and he managed to guess their actions in advance. A few swings of the sword destroyed the obstacles in Yukito's path. Suddenly, something the young man saw up ahead made him stop. A stocky silhouette of a stone monster appeared out of the darkness. Cyclops. It had only one fiery eye. The red aura around it gave away the monster's intentions. The young man thought that it would be harder to overcome it. One interesting thought arose in the hero's mind: it's worth memorizing the movements of this monster. Analyzing the monster's actions would help to overcome it. The creature clenched its huge fist, ready to attack the man at any moment. Yukito barely had time to bounce away when the monster's fist hit the ground. The hero had to jump around a lot to stay alive. The physical forces were unequal. It was necessary to act with the help of cunning. The young man decided to use his jumps, looking for the monster's weak spot. At this time, finding the core, he was easily able to overcome the strong but unintelligent creature. After accomplishing this difficult task, Yukito landed on the ground unharmed. The monster fell to the ground behind him. This victory allowed the hero to move closer to his goal. He approached the tall door. Pushing open the door, the young man thought, the time has finally come. From this day on, I will have a new life. A magical golden globe poured from the gap formed after the door opened. The next moment, Yukito found himself in a large, spherical-shaped hall. The floor of this room was covered with some obscure symbols. The door closed behind the hero's back. There is no turning back now. In the center of the depicted symbols was a giant stone monster, some parts of its body covered with green moss. The creature's shoulders bore the same symbols as the floor. The hero immediately realized that it was an ancient golem guarding the main treasure of this floor. This monster was a level 20 boss. Only by overcoming it would Yukito finally achieve what he wanted. The golem's appearance was frightening. Its strength was incredible, and its attacks were powerful, but it was for the sake of fighting this monster that Yukito reached the 20th floor so quickly. Now it was time to act. Attacking the ancient boss, the hero noted that it had mediocre movement speed for such a monster. The guy jumped up high and struck the golem's head with his sword. Yukito had a plan. He needed to chip off at least a piece of the monster's armor. This way, he could get to the monster's weak point, which was the core, and defeat the ancient relic guardian. Meanwhile, this battle was being watched by a spectator who wished to remain unnoticed. The gang leader's plan had failed last time. Watching the fight from the doorway, he hoped that today the boy would be unlucky. The magic symbols began to glow more brightly, red light flooding the hall. The next moment, something incredible happened. Another monster began to rise from the center of the pentagram. Yukito's eyes went wide. He never thought that the ancient golem would not be alone. The huge creature got to its feet, taking up all the space around it. Its core was blue-purple in color. The hero looked over his shoulder at the door. A single hunch visited him. The appearance of the second boss meant only one thing: there was someone else here besides Yukito. It was very strange, for the young man felt no foreign presence. The hero thought it was generally worth expecting such guests, but even a newcomer wouldn't interfere in such a battle. Yukito looked around, hoping to see an intruder. The stranger's attack was sneaky, his dagger flying straight into Yukito's back. Only thanks to his own keen reactions and fantastic luck did the hero manage to notice the danger. One swing of the hero's sword, and the dagger no longer threatened him. The battered weapon, like a boomerang, flew back. Yukito immediately realized that this was all a setup by someone. The bandit leader gritted his teeth. Once again, he had failed to harm that elusive Yukito. The bandit thought, an ordinary guy can't be such a dabbler of fortune. Besides, this kid has incredible reactions. But the next moment, another dagger gleamed in his hand. The man calmed his own emotions and decided that he had the better advantage anyway. The bandit thought the young man was just an idiot who didn't understand anything. Before the man descended to the 20th floor, he found out that it takes a group of at least 4 people to overcome the ancient golem. He snuck behind the hero to automatically summon a second golem. But unlike Yukito, the bandit didn't have to worry about fighting these things. They just wouldn't notice him. After all, he had a thief level higher than Yukito. The bandit thought, with my disguise skills, I'm perfectly safe. It's worth using a skill called catwalk. The ringleader slipped into the hall, unnoticed by the hero, determined to tease the second golem. Thanks to the Shadow Twin skill, he was almost invisible in space and moved so fast that it could seem as if the person was in 2 places at once. Thus, the bandit decided to take revenge on the hero, because overcoming 2 ancient golems alone was an unrealistic task. Just in case, the leader had even brought along an invisibility cloak, a rare S-rank item that perfectly hides its wearer's presence from enemies. Now the ringleader was sure that no one present could detect him. 3-on-1 is foul play, he thought, but that's what a thief always does to his enemies. Besides, that wasn't the bandit's entire preparation for revenge. He had treated his daggers with poison. It would also attack the hero, greatly reducing his chances of escape. The dagger flew straight into the back of the hero, who didn't expect danger from this side. The bandit thought, it's worth attacking without fanaticism, just to stump the victim. The weapon flew past the hero's face, narrowly missing him. The attempt to harm Yukito with poison had failed. The leader was dumbfounded. How could a young man hide an antidote under such weak armor? But it didn't take long for the man to get nervous. He only needed to keep the hero in suspense. He was now attacking the hero simultaneously with dozens of 4-bladed knives. The bandit admitted to himself, "How I love traps of all kinds." The man was confident that he could succeed by working alone. With a sad experience under his belt, he didn't want to rely on a bunch of knuckleheads anymore. The ringleader decided to trust traps that had never failed him before, such as live barbed wire. Thanks to the efforts of the dastardly bastard, the hero was now restricted in his movements. The results of his own labor pleased the bandit greatly. He thought, it's only a matter of time before Yukito gets swatted by the golems. The poor young man had no idea what intrigues were going on around him. The hero continued to confront the 2 bosses of the 20th floor, trying to break through their armor and get to the nukes, the only weak point in these stone piles. Meanwhile, the bandit decided he had done enough and could now just enjoy the spectacle. But it didn't take him long to rejoice. Suddenly, the leader saw Yukito flying straight at him, thrusting his sword forward. Sweat broke out on the thief's face, pulled on the bridge of his nose. He couldn't believe it was possible. Yukito smiled and asked, "Have you run out of magic stuff?" The bandit thought dazedly, how could he see me? The young man suggested that he should go down, there was no point in sitting there. Without waiting for an answer, the hero threw the bandit's blade at himself and asked, "Do you really like me so much that you decided to stalk me?" The leader was able to escape the danger. He asked Yukito, "How could you see me?" The boy replied with a smile on his face, "I was helped by my hunting instincts. It's a pretty common skill. Didn't you know that?" The enraged bandit shouted, "Stop lying! How can a low-level skill help you find a high-ranking thief?" The hero replied, "Okay. Even if it's a lie, what are you going to do? Run away like a scared puppy?" The thief could not tolerate such arrogance from a low-level scoundrel. His face turned red with anger. A vein began to pulse on the bandit's forehead, and he grabbed his swords, ready to lunge at Yukito. The man snapped out of his seat. He shouted that he was better than Yukito. The hero did not move from his seat. He bravely waited for the enemy to approach. When the 2 men's weapons finally met, the impact of metal on metal sent sparks flying in different directions. Yukito stayed where he was, but his opponent was struck as if by an electric shock and thrown to the ground. The hero smiled. He said, "I think that phrase is best left to the winner. What do you think?" Yukito was able to flick his opponent away from him with one swipe of his sword. The bandit was still only interested in one thing. He exclaimed angrily, "When did you know I was here? How did you find me? Was it just a warrior's intuition, you damned lying bastard?" The hero thought he didn't have to explain anything, especially since he wasn't lying. He had activated the warrior's intuition skill a long time ago. It helped a lot in battles. This skill recognized danger in the user's surroundings. The chances of it activating were incredibly low, almost guaranteed to fail, with only a tiny sliver of hope for success and an even slimmer shot at something extraordinary. The hero looked at the system's messages and hoped his luck wouldn't fail him this time. Yukito smiled. He was sure he would be lucky again. The next moment, he saw another message. The system congratulated him on his great success. He could now see all the dangers in the field. A kind of radar appeared in Yukito's head, informing him of danger. The bandit was rapidly approaching again. He told the hero that he was too fast for his level. Yukito thanked his enemy for the compliment, and prepared to repel the attack. The battle continued, the bandit still believing in his own victory. He said to the young man, "You are still just a low-ranked warrior, after all." The thief thought he was superior to the lad in agility, and there was no surprise in that. Striking again with his sword, he continued to chatter about his talents, adding to them the accuracy of his strikes. Unfortunately, his threats were not idle chatter. The gang leader managed to wound Yukito. A cut appeared on the hero's arm. The bandit said, "I would like to point out the fact that you've prepared for unusual conditions as well." After saying that, he relaxed, and missed the moment his opponent was behind his back. Yukito swung his sword. It seemed like just a moment more, and he would finally end his pursuer. Unfortunately, the bandit also had a superior set of instincts. At the last moment, he sensed danger, did a somersault in the air, and miraculously avoided the blow. He exclaimed, "Your situation is still as grave as before." The hero didn't reply to this retort. He silently attacked with his sword skill called Besting. This attempt by the lad only made his opponent laugh. The man exclaimed, "Guaranteed attack, isn't it?" He was having fun, because he knew how to respond. The bandit used the butterfly dance skill. This technique confused the young man, for now, his opponent could be in many places at once. Striking, Yukito thought, "Did I miss again?" At that moment, the thief was ready to repeat the attack. He pushed himself off the ground and rushed toward Yukito. The man said, "These are the perfect conditions for evasion, when two conflicting skills collide." He was rapidly approaching the hero, continuing to prattle on about how, in the end, it all comes down to status. The bandit's attack was successful again. Now Yukito was also wounded in the leg. The hero exclaimed, "Oh my God!" Now, he was even more vulnerable to the thief's attacks. The bandit was pleased with the result of his strikes. He exclaimed in a high-pitched voice, "A slow warrior like you will never catch up with me!" Suddenly, one of the ancient golems decided to attack the pesky humans with a laser shot. It was only because of his talent that Yukito managed to dodge a wound that could have been fatal. The bandit continued to gloat. He shouted, "The 20th floor is a great ride!" The man stopped a few steps away from Yukito, making strange movements with his swords. He boasted that he could easily dodge the attacks of the 20th floor boss. This was helped by analysis, as the golem moved in a set pattern. The bandit asked, "The guy you bought that information from, the guild too, didn't you?" Yukito answered nothing, silently fending off another blow from his opponent. The opponent's duel was between two ancient golems that would occasionally ride in, attacking suddenly. The hero felt a sharp pain in his leg. Had his luck deserted him today? He lowered his gaze to the ground and saw the sharp blade of the bandit's trap, now stained in his own blood. The young man had stepped on the spike. The rogue continued to gloat, happy that his traps were working. He stated with a smile, "There are no intruders on the 20th floor. This means that my victory was predicted the moment I started preparing for the operation." After shouting this, the bandit used the scorpion point technique. Yukito's confidence in his own strength melted away as he barely had time to block his opponent's blows. After another clash, the hero was unable to stay on his feet, the mana of his opponent's sword throwing him backward. The blow was so strong that the young man fell and lost consciousness. The sword fell out of the hero's hands and clattered onto the floor of the room. The young man quickly came to his senses and realized he was unarmed in the face of danger. The bandit shouted, "This is the end!" He was sure that victory was within his grasp. The scum's two swords were rapidly approaching the hero. Yukito looked truly scared, but the next moment, the expression on the hero's face changed dramatically. He stuck out his tongue and said he was joking. Yukito swung his hand and activated his trap. At that moment, the bandit was caught in a purple sphere. The man couldn't believe he had been trapped in a gravity trap. The young man asked the bandit, "You said there were no irregular troops before, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Are there any?" The thief caught himself thinking he couldn't control his own mouth. Yukito said, "The information we possess can only be used in a normal situation. After all, no one expected some idiot to get into a battle with the 20th floor boss." The only thing the gravity trap thug could squeeze out of himself was, "Really?" At that moment, one of the ancient golems struck the spot where the bandit was. The hero barely had time to bounce back. All the while, he kept talking. "Because of the double raid, even the management changed," the hero said with a smile. He taunted the outlaw. "You call yourself a thief, but you didn't even notice the traps." The bandit didn't believe a word the guy said. He screamed that it was simply impossible. He called the young man a low-level scum who should have behaved like a normal warrior. He didn't notice the danger that was very close by. The boss's blow came right to the face of the bandit leader. From such a powerful attack, the gravity trap burst, and the thief fell to the ground. Lying there and barely catching his breath, he whispered, "That hurts." The 20th floor boss picked up the injured man with his giant fingers and lifted him high above the ground. The very next moment, the ancient golem let go of its victim. The bandit crashed to the stone floor of the hall. His bloody hand trembled. He couldn't believe his revenge hadn't come to fruition. Barely breathing, the mangled man whispered, "How could I have overlooked the traps of a low-level warrior?" Yukito replied, "Like I said from the beginning, I was helped by my warrior's intuition." The gang leader coughed, leaving bloody footprints on the floor. Rejoicing in his victory, the hero advised the scoundrel to conserve his strength. The young man added, "If you're still alive by the time I defeat the ancient boss, I'll take you to the police." But the bandit was not as weak as he might have first appeared. Catching his breath, he tried to rise, leaning on his hands. He said, as if addressing no one in particular, "Do not deceive me." Due to his luck, Yukito now had incredibly sharp hearing. He was able to hear that whisper. The next moment, the rogue shouted loudly, "In that case, I'll drag you to hell myself." A moment later, a long ribbon of ammunition appeared on the bandit's body. He exclaimed, "This thing is on a whole other level than your substandard weapon." This turn of events stunned the hero. He confusedly asked his enemy, "Are you completely crazy?" That one really did resemble a man out of his mind. Right now, he was ready for anything to destroy the guy. Activating the system monitor, he pressed the yes button. After that, there was a massive explosion that blew everything around. The blast wave and the debris it carried also reached the place where Yukito was standing. The floor beneath the hero's feet began to crumble, cracks appearing on it. The young man found himself in the very epicenter of the disaster. There was little chance of rescue. In the next instant, the guy flew somewhere down. He was swallowed up by darkness. Some time passed, and Yukito fell, hitting the stone floor painfully. The young man touched his head and thought, that was very painful. As his eyes grew accustomed to the darkness, he tried to see how high he had fallen. From somewhere high above, the sky was visible. It seemed to the guy that he couldn't get up. He lay there for a while longer and finally sat up. When he looked around, he couldn't believe that there was a secret room hidden here. No sooner had the hero caught his breath after such a fall than he saw a golem flying at him from above. It turned out there was no getting rid of him that easily. Yukito gathered his strength into a fist and rose to his feet. An unhappy thought flashed through the boy's mind: I'd been stumped. Hoping for the luck that hadn't deserted him lately, the hero quickly looked around the unfamiliar room. Through a hole in the wall, he saw a ladder and some sort of shiny object. What is that? The young man thought. He strained his vision and discerned a chest that glowed with a magical light. Yukito smiled. Am I really seeing this? It turns out secret rooms and treasures always come with a package. Now, the hero wanted to get to this room at all costs. Maybe that's what he came down here for. In the meantime, the second golem, which had appeared not without the bandit's help, had also managed to jump in. The room became too crowded. The young man thought that he didn't have enough space to escape from the bosses. He realized that he couldn't defeat two golems at once just by attacking them. There was a need for cunning here. Yukito thought, I have no choice but to bet my fate on this treasure chest. The hero went with a bang. He snapped out of his seat, trying to leap between the legs of the golem that was guarding the treasure. The young man pushed off with his feet and jumped up, trying to cover the distance as quickly as possible. Yukito needed to push himself off the hard surface as quickly as possible, or he would lose his balance and fall. The hero slid onto the golem's shoulder and pushed off of it. A moment more, and he would be on the hard surface of the floor. The treasure chest was rapidly approaching. He would soon find out what the boss was hiding here. It was at this moment that the second boss, who was facing the treasure, attacked the hero with laser fire. Yukito didn't expect such an attack. He was hit in the back, knocking him off course. The young man couldn't hold his sword, and it flew to the ground. The hero collapsed to the floor, coughing blood. Shaking, Yukito tried to reassure himself, It's okay. My spine isn't broken, and that's great. The boy looked up and realized that the danger was still very near. The 20th floor boss decided to finish off his victim. He had already put his foot in position to crush the young man. This time, Yukito was scared out of his wits. His luck seemed to have deserted him. He was so wounded that he could not even respond to the danger rapidly approaching. The next moment, the hero felt unbearable pain. He heard the crunch of broken bones. Yukito's legs were crushed by the giant foot of the ancient golem. A thin trickle of blood dripped from the boy's mouth onto the stone of the floor. He was almost unconscious from the intense pain. He gathered his will into a fist and slammed his hand to the ground, ordering himself not to give up. The hero noted that the pain was so intense that he began to vomit. The young man saw ahead of him the long-awaited treasure. His sword lay beside the chest, but he could not rise to his feet. The golem wasn't going to stop. It wanted its victim dead and kicked his legs again. Everything in the hero's eyes turned red. He shrieked wildly. The hero now recalled, compared to his previous life, in which he had lived for 70 years, things were different now. This attempt was very short. Yukito, despite the unbearable pain and being unable to move his legs, continued to crawl toward the treasure. He decided this was his last chance to save himself and help his mom. Through incredible willpower, suppressing the unbearable pain, Yukito was able to reach the chest and open it. Suddenly, a powerful beam of light struck from within. Its source was a blue-colored gem. Yukito found the strength to smile. He had achieved his goal. In this way, the bracelet that adorned the magic stone, it possessed powerful mana. It was a dangerous moment, for the golem was about to finish off its victim. He had to hurry, because there were only seconds left to save himself. The hero reached out and grabbed the bracelet. He intuitively knew what he had to do. Putting the artifact on his hand, Yukito muttered, "I have it, which means I've won. Fate is still on my side."
We got plenty more where that came from. Hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for even more amazing content.